Chapter 2, Section 20. The concept of lineage was and still is important in Indian culture and law. It is through such means that people establish their identity. Although the Buddha associates the first three lineages with the three paths, his intent here is to go beyond the paths to the realizations on which they are based and to emphasize that Buddhahood is open to all. What lies in the background here is the importance of the teachers with whom one comes into contact and not their doctrines. Also, this is aimed at instilling an awareness of how to adjust one's own instruction of others. Section 21. Another case where the verses do not first seem to recapitulate the previous prose section. But on a closer reading, the first verse dismisses the goals of the Shravaka path. The second verse introduces the use of expedient teachings while dismissing the goals of the Pratyeka Buddha path. The third verse turns to the Tathagata path, and the fourth verse finds even the highest meditative realms, be they Hinayana or Mahayana, unequal to the teaching of mind only. Section 22. Having considered the karmic lineages that make Buddhahood possible for us benighted beings, the Buddha now turns to those who, in some quarters, are said to lack such a possibility, the XX-XXX. At issue here is whether or not all beings have the Buddha nature. The Buddha offers a novel solution. All beings have the ability to become Buddhas. It only takes instruction and the willingness to be instructed. Hence, bodhisattvas cultivate patience. In fact, given their vow not to enter nirvana until all others do, some bodhisattvas assume the guise of XX-XXXs in order to liberate them. Section 23. Resuming his review of the major teachings bodhisattvas were expected to understand, the Buddha introduces the three modes of reality, which he summarizes according to their relationships to the five dharmas. They are, after all, two different ways of looking at the same thing, namely, the world we perceive and think of as real, one based on projections, the other based on correct knowledge. Section 24. The Buddha completes his review of the major teachings in which bodhisattvas are expected to be versed with the two kinds of no-self. The skandhas, dhatus, and ayatanas are simply different ways of breaking down one's experience of awareness in search of a self. The skandhas include the external world of form and the internal worlds of sensation, perception, memory, and consciousness. The dhatus include the 6 powers of sensation, the 6 domains of sensation, and the 6 forms of consciousness that arise upon their conjunction. The ayatanas include only the 6 powers and 6 domains. Not only does the Buddha deny the existence of anything permanent among such dharmas as the skandhas, he also denies that the skandhas or anything else are themselves permanent or self-existent. Section 25. This section follows from the previous one and examines the 4 aspects from which a self can be postulated to exist or not to exist. The Buddha rejects both sides of this issue. This is because the aspects that are asserted or denied neither exist nor do not exist. They exist as words, as concepts, but not as anything real. Section 26. Having mastered the preceding teachings, bodhisattvas now go beyond the 8th stage and begin their own careers as teachers of the Dharma, in particular the Dharma as taught by this sutra. The emphasis here is not on what bodhisattvas attain, but on what they do to help others. Section 27. The Buddha now examines the basic teachings common to all sects of Mahayana Buddhism, beginning with emptiness. But as he says here, Mahamate, it is because people are attached to an imagined reality that we speak of emptiness. The same holds for the other teachings covered here, non-arising, non-duality, and the absence of self-existence. Thus, at the end of this section, he advises his followers to trust truth and not words, including words such as emptiness. Section 28. Previously, Mahamate wonders if the Buddha's teaching is not nihilistic. Now he wonders if the Buddha's teaching is not eternalistic, and if the teaching of the Tathagata does not run counter to the foregoing teachings of emptiness, non-arising, and no self. The Buddha explains how the Tathagata is not the same as a self, but rather an expedient means used to attract those who cling to a self by providing something less frightening than no self. 29. Short though this section is, the Buddha manages to list the major conceptions of a self held by other paths, something that continues from one life to the next, something that results from a combination of matter and conditions, or something created by an outside force, all of which are nothing more than fictions. Section 30. These are highlights of the Bodhisattva path leading to the Tathagata, beginning with seeing that there is nothing to see other than one's own mind, and concluding with the personal realization of what Buddhas know, to which is added the means to teach such realization to others.